Hello, and welcome to Mental Health Matters Podcast. I'm your host, Liz Lang, and I'm here with Dr. Mark Burton. In this podcast, we will talk about all things mental health. Thank you so much for joining us. Hey guys, Liz Lang here, and this week we are very excited to welcome back Lindy Burton. And Lindy is the lovely wife of Dr. Mark Burton. They work together at Aspen Grove Counseling. And so, Lindy, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and in particular, tell us what a licensed clinical social worker is, which is what you do.
Yes, Liz. So a licensed clinical social worker is just another training route to becoming a therapist. And the focus is more on family and children than the traditional, say, psychologist route.
Okay. So primarily what you do day to day is work with children, correct?
Yeah, I do. I work with a lot of children.
Okay, which is why Mark immediately suggested you for this episode. And often, anytime we've done anything referencing children, he's always first talked to you as you're kind of the in-house child expert, as it were. And not only having a degree in this, you've also raised 4 children yourself, and you are very involved with your grandchildren's lives. So, I think you're a really good fit for this topic. And today's topic is positive body image. And in particular, we're going to talk about cultivating a positive body image among teenagers. And this is a huge epidemic in America. So many teenagers and women have a negative body image of themselves. It's a very common problem. And if I had to hazard a guess, I would say the number one reason for that is going to be comparison. Theodore Roosevelt gave a great quote that said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." And I think that is absolutely true. So what we can do, though, is we can help by starting with our children when they are very young. And there are some really great ways to do this. And so one of the ideas that I had is how you can start this very early on is simply answering children's questions about their bodies, about your body, unashamedly. And particularly about development of bodies. Or, maybe if a child asks, "Well, Mommy, why do you have breasts, or what are those on your chest? And why is Daddy not have them?" Just answering those questions unashamedly and just factually.
I couldn't agree more, because one of the things that happens is when we do that stutter or halt, or things don't have names, or we do nicknames like boobies or pee-pee, what happens is there's implied a message. That area is so bad, we can't even say its name. And so I think it's really helpful for kids to have parents just be comfortable, just like you'd say, that's your nose, that's your nipple, that's your breast. And also for girls, it's clear boys have a penis. It's important for girls to know they have a vulva. That's a whole area. They have a clitoris, and that isn't named. And so I think girls get a lot of shame about that particular part of their body, when it's like anything else, a chin or an ear. It's just a part of their body.
I totally agree. And I've been an advocate of this for a long time. Penis and vagina are not bad words. And they are not inappropriate. I don't think they need to be censored. I think they need to be normalized. Kids need to understand that they're a part of your body, like you said, the same as your nose or your eyes. And it's a very important part of your body. It performs a very distinct purpose, just like your mouth does. So does the penis or the vagina and the vulva and the clitoris. They're important parts of your body. So one of the things that you brought up prior to this episode is addressing how parents' attitude about body size affects children. And I think this is very important because, as we said at the beginning of the episode, a lot of people today have a negative body image themselves. And there are a lot of different reasons for that. And, and it's not that we want to shame parents who feel shame, because, I mean, shame doesn't help anyone. Or it's not that we want them to be embarrassed because they maybe don't have the best positive body image. I think what you can apply here to help children is fake it till you make it, at the very least. So I had a really good experience with this with my oldest. This was about sometime in the last year. And my oldest is 9, and we're driving to school one morning, and she says from the back seat, "Mom, you're kind of skinny, right?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And then she went on to say, "Daddy says it's because you had 3 kids." And I kind of laughed internally and wondered, what in the world had you and Daddy been talking about? And then I don't remember exactly what I said, but I went on to tell her the important part, or the important thing, is that I am okay with my body. I am okay with the way I look. I like the way that my body looks. And that's what counts, is we need to be comfortable with how our bodies look. And I only felt a little bit guilty that I was slightly fudging the truth, but overall, it's more important for my daughter to see that I at least want a positive body image, because that will help her to cultivate the same thing.
Yeah. And I want to add on to that. I am thinking, Liz, that one of the problems in this country is we are all living with this huge lie that's over all of us, and it's not labeled for any of us. And that lie is that if you change your appearance, you will be happier.
Yes.
And if you look at, we're just bombarded with that in so many, many ways. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I think is helpful for parents one is to let that in for themselves, like to start looking at that as moms. And because I want to say, I've worked with a lot of teens, adolescents with eating disorders. Mm-hmm. And something that is a consistent theme, I have never treated an adolescent with an eating disorder, I don't think, who didn't say that their mom didn't like her body, mm-hmm. and that they heard her mom complaining about she was too fat, or saying I shouldn't eat that, or making comments about the kids' diet. So, kids absorb a lot of our attitudes. They just kind of have a hidden radar. And so this can be an extra incentive for us, I think, as parents, to start really looking at that lie of, if you change your appearance, you're going to be happier, and start really focusing on, it's not the package we're in, it's what's inside.
Yes, I agree with that. And that's not to say that we can't talk to kids about being healthy and about taking care of our bodies. That is very important to positive body image. It's very important to teach our kids early on, we need to take care of our bodies. Exercise is good for your body. Eating healthy food is good for your body. My middle daughter she's almost 6, and she is a constant snacker. And she gets her 3 meals a day, but then she constantly wants to be snacking. And I was a little worried about this, because I was worried about her creating an unhealthy lifestyle. And, I talked to a few different psychologists about it, and I talked to, our pediatrician, and the conclusion that we came up with is really simple. Just give her healthy options. Don't shame her about wanting to eat. Just tell her, okay, here are your options. You can have a yogurt, you can have carrot sticks, grapes, or an apple. So just give her healthy options and let them eat. And I think that's where positive body image can start, is helping kids to understand that food is a good thing, it's an important thing, and we need to make healthy choices.
Oh, I really like that. Yeah, I think that's so important.
Yes. So one of the other things that you said is that I think would be good to talk about is how to handle negative statements from children or spouses about bodies. And I think we could address this in 2 ways. Maybe negative comments, and this one maybe isn't as important, but negative comments that they say about themselves, about their own bodies, how we can address that. But the more important one would be negative statements about kids' bodies. And I'm hoping that this doesn't happen too often. And I would imagine when it does, it's probably kind of an innocuous or an innocent thing, but it's important to address. So, what is your advice on that?
Okay. So, first, parents often don't notice what we do. However, I'm thinking just of, in fact, someone with an eating disorder who mentioned that their father was always saying, "Ooh, look at that fat person," or "They're so fat." And in doing that, it gives the child this message: what's important is being thin. And I actually think that this whole focus on appearance, it would be so much better if we could start looking past that outward package and saying, like, look how hard that person tries, or that person looks really interesting, or something that isn't about summing up people in terms of body size. So I think it's important to notice how much women also do comparing. And especially when they don't notice their kids are listening, they'll say, "Oh, wasn't she pretty?" It might even be positive that way, or "She's so skinny," or "She's so stylish." All those kinds of comments feed into the lie that what the outer package looks like is what's going to make you happy or what's going to make you special. And I think that when we can start just orienting so much more to those inner characteristics, it's just like we wouldn't want to teach our kids, all that counts is that external package of a product, like that's all that counts. And I think it's helpful for parents to even to label this about the lie for teens, so teens can notice it and see how we're kind of duped. But especially that watching your own language, watching what you buy into on the adult level. Now, for the kid level, often kids, actually more often than you'd even believe, kids on the playground, one of the worst things they can call each other, the biggest slur, is fat. There's a lot of calling kids fat, so they hear that. And kids will hear that, and then they'll come home and like, "I'm fat," if they've been called that kind of name. So it's really hard when kids do that, like, "Mommy, am I fat?" or "I'm fat." And I think it brings up such a response in us. We almost want to really quickly jump to, "No, you're not fat." When we do that, we give a message of like, "That's a terrible thing to be. I can't even tolerate that thought." And so if your child does that, it's more helpful if you don't panic. If you can just say, "It seems like you're wanting to call yourself a name that doesn't make you feel good. And I'm curious about that." Or to sit with it, like, "So, Mommy, I'm fat." And so I'm wondering what you're saying to yourself. What does that mean to be fat? Something like that, where I'm not panicking. I'm showing that I don't have to just fix that or run away from that we all have fat on our bodies. That's a part of being healthy.
Yes, absolutely. And we have such a negative and distorted idea of what the perfect image should be, what the perfect body looks like. We're bombarded with it every single day in Hollywood and in ads. And, that's not real life. And I think it's good to talk to kids and say, they don't naturally look like that. That's the result of a lot of makeup, a lot of touch-up work, a lot of cosmetics, angling. There's a lot you can do to look really pretty for a camera. But the reality is you've seen Mommy first thing in the morning. I don't look very glamorous, but you know what? That's okay. I just woke up. And you know what? I'm happy that I got a good night's sleep and my body feels good because I slept. And it doesn't matter that my hair is really messy. What matters is that I'm taking care of my body. And so I think really putting a focus on health and being healthy is a really way to help build positive body image, because it is important for kids to understand that you can be unhealthy. You can, if you eat too many sweets, then that's not taking care of your body. And, maybe you don't need to make it about the weight so much at a young age, But it's something that, I mean, I guess eventually that is going to come up. And so, what are your thoughts on that? If maybe you have a kid that is maybe eating too much and you need to help them to understand that this isn't healthy for their body, do you make it about the weight or do you make it about the health? Is there a balance? What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are I agree with where you're going, Liz, that it's always about the health. I don't
Okay.
think you make it about the weight. I think that's a real mistake.
Okay.
The truth is that there are things we can control, of course, about our weight somewhat. But when people tend to be obese, that tends to be very much linked to genetics. More and more research is showing that this is a lot out of our control.
Mm-hmm.
But what we want to focus on is this valuing bodies, as in, this body does so much for us. We value it, we take care of it. That way it will feel better and work better. And I wouldn't bring weight into it at all,
Okay.
because I think the real message, healthy people, I mean, mental health wise and healthy, is that it's not your weight that matters.
Yeah.
Your health matters.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your weight that matters.
Yeah. And it sounds like you need to make healthier options with your food, is what you could say to your child. And let's focus on getting in some exercise. Let's go for a walk every day. I would think a great way to address that kind of thing. So I think another part of building positive body image, which can start at a very young age, is addressing the difference between privacy and secrecy, because privacy is very, very important and kids need to understand privacy and that their bodies are private, but they should never think that their bodies are, or even other people's bodies are, a secret. And so I want to spend a little bit of time on that.
Yeah, I really like that. And I like how it ties into body positivity, because I think what you're connecting is that people have shame about their bodies. And if you look at areas of shame, appearance and weight is
Mm-hmm.
one of the areas people have a huge amount of shame about their bodies. And another area they have shame about is about sexuality.
Yes.
And so shame grows in secrecy. You're
Mm-hmm.
right.
Yeah.
In those lack of words and lack of education and lack of it being factual, instead of it just being, this is how it is. Your body has these parts. And so I think it's really important for kids to have body parts labeled, talked about, understand. And I think books are the one of the best ways that you can, I think, from very young ages, like it's great for 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds to understand and be about the opposite sex and their own bodies. And these are the names. And then it's just not a big deal. You grow up knowing these are the parts of the body, and it takes away the shame. And then as far as privacy versus secrecy, I think you want to very much by saying, for example, your penis is private and no one else gets to touch it. It's really special.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a wonderful part of your body.
Yes.
That adding, it's such a wonderful part of your body. It does such good things for you.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it so you can pee and it feels good too. And that's wonderful. And
Yeah.
just simple statements like that to little kids growing up just help build this sense of, oh, it's all part of me. Doesn't mean you need to go on for huge, long times until, well, as they get older, you certainly want to be, that's so special and such a wonderful part of your body and so celebrated, that is a special part that we keep covered and don't have other people touch until we are old enough to decide about that, to be,
Mm-hmm.
that gets to be an adult decision.
Yes, and I think doctors' visits are a really great way to open this conversation to kids, because when you take your kids to the doctor for their yearly well child visit, they start at age 2, and then around 3 or 4, they're starting to notice and to pick up that my body is private. But yet the doctor needs to look and maybe needs to touch a little bit. And that's a really great opportunity to explain to kids, part of taking care of our body is going to the doctor, and the doctor needs to see to make sure everything looks okay. But that is only happening because I am in the room and I am with you. We would never let another adult do that. Only a doctor, and only because mommy is there. I think that's another very important part of healthy body image or positive body image.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about when kids maybe start to notice, or what age kids start to become cognizant of body image, and maybe what age they're going to start comparing. Because no matter how much you tell your kid, oh, your body is wonderful and it's a beautiful thing, and or say good things, they're still going to see other kids and they're going to compare themselves to some extent. What age do you see that starting to happen?
What we know from the research is it gets younger and younger, and that's probably because advertising has geared it, I think, more and more. And I think it's probably because in our society, actually, the adults and kids' worlds are getting less and less happy with their bodies because of all the focus on appearance. And so I saw the research, and it was just astounding. The percentage of sixth grade girls who thought they were fat and had been on a diet already in sixth grade. I mean, these are, little kids. I know. And so I want to say, I think kids are getting this message. You're really working on body positivity all along, and you're doing that. You can start doing that from the time they're tiny by skipping over. And I know this is hard because we've been really trained, but not, you're such a pretty girl. Mm-hmm. But oh my goodness, look at those. You can do shiny blue eyes, or I love that smile. But even better, have it more be about their characteristics. Like, you really work at things, or I noticed how you shared, or things about them. So that just that inoculates them. So as they get bigger and they have not this perfect body, they already have the sense of what my parent valued about me is all the internal things. Imagine if your parent had just valued those internal things so much. It's kind of like a vaccine against caring so much about the externals. So that's one place to start, is with that value system. And that's something for those who do belong to religions that I think is really healthy. You'll notice none of the values in religious systems are about, that external stuff. And you can point that out. And so as kids get older and start focusing on their body, like so-and-so's skinnier than I am, or so-and-so's prettier than I am. Again, don't panic. It's not about talking them out of it, especially if it's true. Kids will know if you're lying.
Right.
I think what is helpful, if they're like, she's skinnier than I am, to just validate, yeah, you notice that she is skinnier. And by that not meaning anything to me, by that just being a statement of fact, I don't have to make that okay for you. I'm not doing the comparing. The child is. I think it helps the child just see that doesn't have any importance to my parent. My parent doesn't care, and she's not, sort of running somewhere with that. She just, she's skinnier. Or if the child goes, so-and-so's prettier, and then I would say, I think that all depends on who's looking and what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. And so, like, to my kids, I would say, and this would be truthful, to me, you're the most beautiful kids in the world. And I'm sure to her mom, she's the most beautiful.
Yeah.
So things that just, it doesn't scare me, but it also isn't so important. So around that beauty, and I might say, and what matters to me even more is I notice how kind you are. Yes. So that anytime it goes to external appearance, I want to drive it home to where the real beauty lies is in those internal characteristics that you've got. And as kids get older, I think you can do some things. Like, one is have them list things they love about their best friends or about people in their family. And then when you go over the list, almost never is it about what they look like. It's about their kindness and all these other things. And so helping kids connect with this shows what matters to you. You don't care about this external package because what really counts is what's inside. And I think labeling that there's a big lie. A lot of people think what matters is the outside.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I know you're going to agree with is a really easy way, or at least a very important part of helping kids develop a positive body image, is very much limit, if exclude, social media from their lives. Social media is not going to help anyone's body image at all.
Yeah. And that is why I think we see self-esteem plummet so much now as kids get the phones and spend time on the social media. And I have so many, I want to say even college kids telling me that they get on social media and they find they just become more and more depressed because they're looking and they're doing the comparing there. And that social media really sets up this, it's all about appearance on.
Yes.
So that's what you're looking at are these stage shots, and it really erodes self-esteem. So I do think helping kids address that, one, by really limiting their exposure if you can when they're younger and setting time limits and all that kind of thing. But two, by talking about it, talking about, when she made that picture, she's getting all dressed up and trying to look, like the outside is what matters. And, as we live our daily lives, I just want to say what matters to me is the way you treat me.
Yep.
You're not going to look like the girl in that picture unless you do a whole bunch of stuff, put a whole bunch of effort there.
And, you don't have to do that to be pretty, or you don't have to, you can find other ways to feel confident. And I think that could be another thing or another good angle to take it of is it's all about instilling confidence. What makes you feel confident? And you know what? If wearing makeup and having your hair done, if it helps you to feel confident, that's great. But you should also focus on how you are treating people. That is the important part. And so real quick, I want to talk about this idea that I heard that make it about how the kids feel because you can't really avoid talking about looks completely because we have to tell our kids things like you have to brush your hair, or I want your hair done, I want it put up so you look presentable. We have to talk about their clothes, about you have to wear clothes and you can't wear pajamas outside every day all the time. And so I've heard this idea of ask kids, what do you think about this, or how do you feel about your body and what's going on with your body? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, I love directing it towards confidence. I just want to say first, and that is directing it towards how you feel. And I think that something that's important for kids to start getting a sense of is you don't need to be anybody's decoration.
Yes.
Some people, they just want to, they spend hours and hours because they think they need to decorate themselves to look some way for someone else. But you are on the earth for you, for your life. And so if you want to get decorated for you, that's great. If that feels good. And if you don't need to be decorated for anyone else. So I just think helping them claim it. And I agree that above all with kids, when they come with heartache about body positivity or, comparison or anything that's happened, going to their feelings is the most helpful thing, acknowledging them. Like, if they're saying, I'm so ugly, what is helpful? We tend to panic again and go to, no, you're not. No, you're not. And that actually doesn't help. You can't talk someone out of feeling badly about themselves.
Mm.
What you can do is you can hold that with them. You're feeling really badly about yourself, and that feels terrible. And by the fact that I'm just holding it, that helps take out the sting. And once they see that you're not rushing somewhere else, then you can open the door to, you can tell me what's making you feel so bad about yourself. And then when they go to that comparing thing, which is where we go, I think labeling it, it's hard. You're not ever going to be person X. You're not person X. You get to be you.
Yeah.
And you're the person I love. So I don't really care what X looks like. And helping direct it that way.
Yeah, yeah, that's really great. So, before we wrap up, let's talk about teens who already have a negative body image for one way or the other. And I'm sure we have listeners out there who are dealing with this for whatever reason. Their teen is just unhappy with the way they look, or they're constantly trying to change themselves. What's your advice to parents? How do you help this teenager?
Okay. So with teens that are unhappy with themselves, one of the places I start first is how much time they're spending on social media and asking them, do they notice how they feel before they do it and after they do it? And you could even have them write it down, because then it becomes pretty clear that's a big feeder of that, of course, that unhappiness. But when they're like, just, I really don't like my body, and they're so sad about it. Again, what is helpful is for parents just to hold that and say, that's so hard, but not rush to fix it. Not like, let's get your hair done or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I think you want to hold that and share that. I think teenage time is a time when everyone is focusing so much on what they look like, and it's hard to feel good about yourselves and share maybe from your own experience. Like, I remember thinking I wasn't pretty as a teenager, and in part that made me think I wouldn't end up being happy, but look at my life.
Mm-hmm.
So you can share it that way. And the other thing you can do is reflect. Like, you sound really sad about things, and a lot of times when people feel like their outside is ugly, it's because they're feeling kind of ugly on the inside.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering what is upsetting you on the inside.
Yeah, and so I think as human beings, we naturally want to shun away from negative emotions. And everybody's going to feel negative emotions. We're all going to feel sadness, we're going to feel anger, we're going to feel hurt, and they're all a natural part of being human. And I think as human beings, we want to get rid of those emotions. We want to dismiss them, we want to push them away as quick as we can. When sometimes what we need to do is we need to just sit and we need to acknowledge those emotions. Acknowledge, this is how I am feeling right now. I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel good about the way I look, and that's hard. And just sit with it for a few minutes and then dig a little deeper and see if you can't backtrack and find out why. What is making me feel this way? What is causing this?
Exactly, Liz. You're so right. Because one thing teens can get into and actually figure out is that they're getting a lot of messages how they're not okay. And you can ask them where the messages come from, and they'll figure it out. It comes from advertising. You can ask them who's benefiting from making you not feel good about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And when they figure that out, that's easier for them than to say, I'm not going to buy into that game. I'm not going to play that game. And it's also helpful with teens when you're watching shows together, and those ads come up, to just point out, did you notice that message? They made it look like you'll be really rich if you are skinny and have that white smile. Did you see how they did that?
Mm-hmm.
Just helping them see and be more discriminating about the messages that come to them, because they're bombarded.
Yeah. We all are
Yeah.
every day. And I mean, you could not have social media at all, and you're still going to be bombarded by it. I mean, look at the ads that are all around us. I mean, you can't go into a store without seeing an underwear model plastered somewhere. And, the message that they're trying to send is if you wear this, it will make you look like this.
Yeah.
And that's a big lie. And, at the end of the day, it's all about money. Money is the root of all evil, and that's what people are trying to do. They're just trying to make money off of you.
Yeah. And if you start planting that idea, like I don't buy into the big lie, they're trying to sell a big lie when they're kind of younger. So then you can go, there it is, the big lie. Oh, yeah. And to own, sometimes I get caught up in the big lie. Sometimes we all do. Sometimes we feel bad about our bodies, and that's pretty sad. And then you can go to that holding it and recognizing that part gets created in the lie. And what do we want to do about it?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, Lindy, this has been fantastic. Thank you again for doing this with me. Next week, Dr. Burton will be back with us, and we are going to get into a topic that I think is very much related to this issue, and that is bullying. So that's going to be a good one, and we will see you all next week. Have a question for Dr. Burton? How about a topic you'd like us to cover? Send us an email at mentalhealthpod21@gmail.com. This podcast was produced and edited by Liz Lang. Music is by Audio Lounge.